The Galactic Council chamber was a world of its own, a colossal sphere of shimmering glass and living metal orbiting between two burning suns. Inside, the air was alive with tension. Voices of hundreds of species echoed across the chamber, layered in sound and color, each tone carrying the weight of power, fear, and ancient pride. From the scaled emissaries of the Draven hives to the crystalline minds of the Vathar collective, every eye, lens, and sensory organ turned toward one small group standing at the center platform. Humanity had arrived, and the entire galaxy was watching. Ambassador Alara Wynn stood motionless under the bright silver lights. Her uniform was plain, no decorations, no rank insignia, only the emblem of Earth on her shoulder. Around her stood two human aides, young and nervous, their faces pale in the alien glow. Above them, the council's central dais loomed like a mountain of shifting crystal. The speaker, Forthal of the Oren Dominion, rose from his throne, his voice rumbling like thunder through the translators. Ambassador of Earth, he began, each word heavy and slow. You stand before the Galactic Council accused of violating Interstellar Accord number 72. You have recalled your ambassadors from neutral colonies, ceased contributions to peacekeeping fleets, and restricted your data exchange protocols. Explain this defiance. Alara looked up at him calmly. Around her, hundreds of alien representatives leaned forward, curious and hungry for drama. The humans were the newest addition to the council, barely 50 years into membership. Yet in that short time, they had ended wars, brokered peace between enemies, and uncovered corruption at the highest levels. Some admired them. Most feared them. She spoke in a steady voice that carried through the chamber. Defiance, Speaker Vorthal, is a word for rebellion. What Earth has done is something else. We have chosen to withdraw. The entire chamber erupted into noise. Translations blurred into chaos. Some shouted in disbelief. Others hissed, growled, or vibrated in anger. A dozen species demanded clarification. One insectoid envoy slammed its clawed limbs against the railing, clicking furiously about broken alliances and disrupted trade. Forthal's crystalline form pulsed crimson with fury. Withdraw? You cannot withdraw. The Accord binds all member civilizations under unified law. Humanity's departure would destabilize every sector. Alara tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. Perhaps the galaxy has relied too much on humans to keep it balanced. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. The Council's watchers, thousands of drones hovering high above, focused their lenses on her face. The broadcast spread across every world, every channel, every network. Billions of beings leaned closer to their screens as one human dared to defy the greatest political power in existence. A reptilian delegate from the Kresh Dominion hissed, "You dare insult this council?" Alara replied softly, "I do not insult. I reveal." She tapped her wrist console. A projection burst to life above the chamber floor. It displayed a map of council territories, thousands of colored lights stretching across the galaxy. Slowly, one by one, the lights representing human stations, embassies, and colonies flickered out. Every delegate in the room realized what they were seeing. Earth had already left. The withdrawal was not a threat. It was already done. Forthal leaned forward, his body emitting a high-pitched crystalline hum that signaled distress. "This is unacceptable. You will face sanctions, trade isolation, military response if required." Alara met his glare with quiet certainty. "You cannot sanction what you cannot reach. Every wormhole gate connected to human space has been shut down. Every relay disconnected. We have closed our borders." The tension in the room became suffocating. A cold pulse of fear spread through the council seats. Humans had cut themselves off completely, without permission, without warning, and without chaos on their end. No riots, no panic, only silence. Calculated, deliberate silence. A deep voice echoed from the balcony above, belonging to one of the elder species, the Thrawn Dominion's arch-counselor. "Do you mean to isolate yourselves from the rest of civilization? You cannot survive without the Council's network." Alara smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps we have simply realized that the Council needs humanity more than humanity needs the Council." Her words hit harder than any weapon. Delegates whispered to each other in disbelief. Even Vorthal faltered for a moment, his glow dimming. He searched for arrogance in her tone, but there was none. Only conviction. Alara raised her gaze toward the upper tiers where the observers and media drones floated. For 50 years, humans have stood as mediators, peacekeepers, and inventors. We have helped you solve conflicts your own laws could not resolve. We've stabilized economies, shared technology, and stopped wars that would have destroyed entire systems. Yet every time we acted, we were met with suspicion and resistance. Every time we helped, we were accused of ambition. So now we choose peace of our own design. Her words hung in the air. The council chamber dimmed, its luminescent walls shifting in color from blue to amber, the mark of official record-taking. Everything she said was now written into history. Vorthal struck his staff against the dais, its impact echoing through the hall. "You cannot dictate the fate of the galaxy alone, human." Ilara turned away slightly, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "We never wanted to, but if the galaxy insists on fear instead of cooperation, then Earth will no longer play the part of savior." From the corner of the chamber, one of her aides received a silent transmission. The young man looked at her and nodded. She gave a subtle gesture in return. Across the galaxy in that same instant, human communication hubs shut down. Diplomatic outposts went dark. Ships vanished into folded space corridors. It was as if humanity had erased its presence from the stars. The speaker's voice trembled. "You will regret this, Ambassador Wynn. Without the Council's oversight, your kind will become isolated, defenseless, forgotten." Ilara paused at the base of the exit ramp. She turned her head slightly and said in a calm voice that carried through the silence, "Or perhaps, Speaker, we'll simply become free." The chamber exploded into uproar again, but she didn't stop. The two aides followed her, their steps echoing against the marble-like floor as they crossed beneath the glaring lights and passed through the tall energy gates. The doors sealed behind them with a low final hum. For several long minutes, the council chamber was paralyzed. Then as one, the delegates began to realize what had just happened. The stabilizing force that had kept the galaxy balanced, the unpredictable, stubborn, inventive humans, were gone. Entire regions of space depended on their trade, their ships, their inventions. Without them, old rivalries would resurface, alliances would crumble, and the fragile peace that had lasted a generation would not survive. High above the chamber, in the observation decks, several alien strategists began sending emergency messages to their homeworlds. They had seen enough wars to know what came next. Meanwhile, aboard her departing shuttle, Ilara watched through the window as the council's structure grew smaller behind them, its lights flickering like a dying star. Her aide spoke nervously. "Ambassador, what if they retaliate?" She didn't answer right away. Her gaze stayed fixed on the horizon, where the faint blue curve of Earth shone in the distance, calm, silent, and untouched by galactic politics. Finally, she said, "They won't. They'll argue first, then panic, then try to understand. By the time they do, we'll already be somewhere they can't reach." Her tone carried no arrogance, only certainty. Humanity had made its choice. The Council would never see it coming, but soon they would realize that the galaxy they thought they ruled had already begun to change, without their consent. And far below, on Earth's surface, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something vast stirred. It pulsed once, faintly, sending ripples across the electromagnetic spectrum. To those who could sense such things, it was a message, though none could yet understand its meaning. Humanity was no longer asking for a seat at the table. They were building their own. The council chamber was never quiet. It was a monument of power and politics, stretching miles high and built from the bones of a dying star. Every sound within it, every vibration, every echo was amplified by the ancient metal walls. It was said that even whispers could travel for light years in that hall. But on this day, those walls trembled under something far heavier than whispers. Humans stood before the Galactic Council again, for what would be the final time in history. At the center podium, under the searing light of twin suns projected through the transparent ceiling, stood Commander Isaac Reeve, Earth's defense envoy. He was no diplomat. He was a soldier chosen to speak when words had already failed. Behind him, a small human delegation remained silent, their expressions unreadable. The chamber was filled with tension so thick it seemed to vibrate through the air. Rows upon rows of alien representatives surrounded the human platform in a massive ring, their eyes, glowing, glinting, or shifting color, focused entirely on the man who dared stand alone before them. Speaker Talar of the Voth Enclave, A towering creature of silver skin and elongated limbs raised his voice. Commander Reeve, the Galactic Council demands an explanation for Earth's complete isolation. Your people have cut every communications relay. You have refused to share resources, refused to participate in mutual defense accords, and withdrawn from every major colony. You cannot simply vanish from civilization. Reeve's voice was calm but cold. We did not vanish. We stepped away. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some hissed in disbelief. Others whispered through translators, sending immediate reports to their homeworlds. The human tone was not one of fear or apology. It was final. Taylor slammed his staff against the dais. You are destabilizing the Council's unity. Entire sectors are collapsing without human mediation. Do you seek to bring ruin to the order we built? Reeve's eyes, steady and unflinching, scanned the massive assembly. Order? You call this order? The Council sits on power built by oppression. You feed on weaker worlds and call it unity. For decades we tried to fix what you broke, and all we earned was distrust. The speaker's glow dimmed to a deep red, the sign of anger. Earth was given opportunity beyond its worth. You were welcomed among the stars. Reeve's lips curved into a faint smile. And we learned that being welcomed and being owned are two different things. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Every sound vanished. Even the air seemed to stop moving. In the observation tiers above, the journalists and intelligence officers from 1,000 worlds stared down at the lone human figure. Humanity's tone had shifted. No longer diplomatic. No longer pleading. The quiet confidence in their representative's voice carried something older, something dangerous. At that exact moment across the galaxy, reports began flooding into the Council's command network. Human trade routes empty, human colonies silent. Every planetary outpost flying the flag of Earth had powered down all transmitters. Earth's gates sealed. The entire Sol system had gone dark. The Council erupted in panic. Dozens of alien voices shouted at once. Some demanded immediate intervention. Others warned that humans were unpredictable, their technology more advanced than they had revealed. It was known that humans experimented with gravitational manipulation and dark energy drives, concepts still forbidden by Council law. One delegate shouted from the shadows, "If they're cutting us off, they're hiding something. They must be stopped before it's too late." Another voice, old and slow, replied, "Stopped? Do you realize how many conflicts they prevented? Without them, the outer sectors will collapse." The speaker ignored the chaos. "Commander Reeve," he said slowly, "you think you can abandon this alliance? There will be consequences. You will lose protection, trade, and recognition. Your worlds will fall into ruin." Reeve's tone was steady. "If ruin is the price of independence, we'll pay it. But tell me, Speaker, what happens to the rest of you when your balance falls apart?" Before the speaker could respond, Reeve pressed a small control on his wrist. A holomap appeared in the air, showing the spiral of the Council's claimed territories. The hologram pulsed as lights representing human outposts vanished one by one. In their place, faint static shadows appeared, something cloaked, unreadable, but undeniably vast. Taylor's eyes widened. "What is that?" "What are you hiding, human?" Reeve looked up at him, calm as stone. "Not hiding, building." The hologram shut down. The human delegation turned and began walking toward the exit ramp. Dozens of alien guards reached for their weapons, but the speaker raised a trembling hand to stop them. "You will answer for this," he shouted. Reeve didn't look back. "You already have your answer." The massive doors sealed behind them with a low mechanical hum. The human vessel waiting outside activated its cloaking field and vanished into the void. For several minutes, no one in the chamber spoke. Then the voices began again, rising, overlapping, desperate. Warnings, accusations, threats. The Galactic Council had never been so divided. The Kresh Dominion's warlord shouted across the chamber, "We should invade their system and force compliance." A crystalline being from the Elith Spire responded, "You fool. If we provoke them, we risk losing everything. Humanity may already have weapons that defy our laws of physics. Then what?" Another growled. "Do we wait while they become a power we cannot control?" No one had an answer. Above them, in the Council's intelligence hub, a small alert began flashing red. Surveillance drones at the edge of Sol space had detected something extraordinary. Massive gravitational disturbances, as though an artificial singularity had been activated. Yet there were no energy signatures of known propulsion. Just silence, dense and absolute. The analyst monitoring the feed whispered to his superior, It's like they've folded space around their system. The superior's voice trembled. That's impossible. No civilization has ever achieved that. But the feed continued showing the same anomaly. The solar system, Earth, Mars, the colonies, was now invisible to long-range scans. It was as if humanity had wrapped their home in a shroud of gravity itself. Back in the council chamber, the speaker received the report in real time. His crystalline form flickered violently. "They've sealed their system," he said softly. "They've done it." The entire hall broke into panic again. "Sealed? That's a declaration of separation. They're preparing for war. We must act before it's too late." Taylor slammed his staff again. "Enough!" The noise died instantly. His glow dimmed to a fearful gray. "No civilization isolates itself without reason. Whatever they're doing, it isn't peace." He turned toward the High Counselor's balcony. "Send reconnaissance fleets to Sol, immediately." Across the galaxy, warships and stealth probes prepared for launch. Orders spread like wildfire. Every major faction wanted to know what the humans were hiding. Meanwhile, on the dark side of Earth's moon, hidden deep within a structure larger than any known station, human engineers worked in silence. The facility pulsed with blue light, resonating with low rhythmic vibrations. At its core stood an enormous ring, slowly rotating, its inner edge rippling like liquid glass. Dr. Lena Hart, the project's chief scientist, stared at the readings. "We're almost ready," she said quietly. A technician beside her asked, "Do you think they'll come?" She didn't look up. Of course they will. Curiosity is their weakness. The ring's surface shimmered brighter, bending the light around it. Space itself seemed to twist. Lena smiled faintly. "And when they arrive, they'll realize we never withdrew out of fear. We withdrew to finish what they told us was impossible." Above the moon, the stars seemed to bend for a moment before returning to normal. Far across the galaxy, the Council's fleets were already on their way, unaware that by approaching Earth, they were stepping into the most dangerous silence the galaxy had ever known. In the vast emptiness of space, Earth remained dark, shielded, and unseen, but every now and then a pulse of light flickered from the moon's surface like a heartbeat. Humanity was awake, and the galaxy was about to learn what that truly meant. The lights in the Galactic Council chamber dimmed to a haunting blue, casting the vast hall in shadows and cold reflection. The chamber stretched for miles, suspended in orbit above the gas giant Tyrellin, a place where the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy gathered to decide the fate of worlds. On this day, the air itself seemed to tremble with unease. At the center platform, surrounded by towering tiers filled with alien representatives, stood a lone human. His name was Ambassador David Wren. He wore no ornate robe, no medal, just the dark uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Behind him, 2 security aides stood silently, the weight of countless eyes pressed against him, judging, calculating, fearing. High above him, seated within a floating prism throne, the council speaker, a translucent being named Arthur Venn, leaned forward. His voice reverberated through the chamber, deep and resonant. "Ambassador Wren of Earth, you are summoned to explain your world's recent actions. You have cut all diplomatic channels, recalled your ambassadors, and shut down interstellar gates linked to your territory. You have destabilized the network that keeps peace among the stars." David's voice was steady, almost quiet. "Peace built on dependency isn't peace. It's control." The words hung like gravity. Hundreds of alien representatives erupted in disbelief. Some shouted. Others emitted waves of color or sound that carried anger, confusion, or raw panic. The noise filled the chamber like a storm. Othar struck the dais with his staff, the sound echoing like thunder. "Enough," he commanded. The noise fell into silence. His body flickered from blue to sharp white, a sign of rising emotion. Earth was accepted into this council to maintain harmony. Humanity has prospered because of our structure. And now you threaten to undo it. David raised his eyes to meet the speaker's glowing form. We joined to learn, to grow together, not to become another tool in your machinery. For 50 years, humanity did everything the council asked. We mediated wars, built stations, shared technology. And what did we receive in return? Restriction, suspicion, surveillance. A reptilian envoy from the Thres Union hissed, "Because you humans act without permission. You alter trade routes, interfere in disputes, and question laws that are older than your species' written history." David didn't flinch. And yet it worked. Every crisis we solved was one your rules couldn't. Maybe the problem isn't how we act, it's that your laws stopped evolving centuries ago. A cold silence swept through the hall. Even Othar hesitated, his crystalline face reflecting faint light. Another delegate, a massive creature of light and gas, spoke from the upper tiers. Humanity has no right to speak of evolution. You're a young race, impulsive, unpredictable, dangerous. Without the council, you'd destroy yourselves. David took a slow breath. Maybe. But at least that destruction would be our own choice. You say we're impulsive. We say we're alive. The chamber filled again with uproar. Words in 1,000 languages overlapped. Delegates called for sanctions, for isolation, for immediate action. The council guards lined the walls, uncertain whether to intervene. Finally, Othar Ven's voice cut through the noise. Ambassador Wren, this arrogance will cost your species everything. The council will cut Earth from all galactic systems. Trade, travel, and communication will be forbidden. You will become a ghost world. David's expression did not change. That has already happened, Speaker. The statement froze the chamber. Before anyone could respond, the floor beneath the human platform shimmered. A holographic projection bloomed, displaying a map of the galaxy. Slowly, glowing lines began to fade. Routes, colonies, communications links, every connection to Earth dissolving one by one. The entire Sol network had gone completely dark. The council erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, demanding explanations, sending instant transmissions to their command centers. The hologram was undeniable. Humanity had already cut itself off completely and deliberately. Othar's form flared in crimson light. You cannot simply vanish from the order of worlds. You will bring ruin to the balance. David looked at him calmly. You call it balance. We call it dependency. The council has ruled by fear of collapse. Maybe it's time you learn what real collapse feels like. The alien guard stepped forward at the speaker's signal, but David raised a small hand device. The projection changed again, this time showing something no one had ever seen before. It was Earth, but different. The planet floated in black space, surrounded by a faint silver field. The moon glowed brighter than natural reflection should allow. Strange distortions flickered around both bodies as though light itself bent in their orbit. A low voice came from one of the observers, trembling. What have they done? David shut off the display. We've built something that doesn't rely on your gates, your technology, or your laws. We've built something new. Othar's voice dropped, sharp and dangerous. You are threatening us. No, David replied. We're warning you. Stay away from Sol. Don't mistake silence for weakness. He turned toward the exit platform. The guards hesitated, unsure. The speaker's command never came. The doors closed behind the humans, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. For several moments, no one spoke. Then the panic began to spread. A dozen species began shouting for military investigation. The Trade Guild demanded emergency meetings. The Voth Enclave threatened to suspend currency exchange. The old order of the Council, built on calculated control, began to fracture. Othar Ven watched in silence, his once luminous body dimming. He turned to his advisors. Send reconnaissance fleets. I want human space mapped and monitored. If they have built something beyond our reach, I want to know what it is. Across the galaxy, hundreds of ships were launched. Spies, scouts, and military observers. They vanished into the dark corridors of hyperspace, heading for Sol, but none returned. The first to go silent was the Voth fleet. Then the Elith probes. Then the Thres observation drones. Every signal cut off mid-transmission. The last image received was a distorted flash, an enormous ring structure orbiting Earth glowing with cold blue light. Back in the council chamber, reports flooded in one after another. Othar's advisors whispered nervously. All contact lost, Speaker. Every fleet that entered their system, gone. Othar stared at the holographic projection. Gone how? No debris. No transmissions. Just static. The speaker's body flickered violently, casting shards of color across the walls. They wouldn't dare attack our fleets. The aide hesitated. There's no sign of an attack. It's as if the ships never existed. For the first time in centuries, fear crept into the Galactic Council. Meanwhile, far beyond their reach, in the quiet of Sol space, the ring continued to rotate. Its core pulsed with rhythmic energy, bending gravity itself. Deep inside the structure, human engineers monitored data with calm precision. Director Amira Holt stood before the observation window, watching the swirling glow. Her second-in-command approached. Council fleets entered the exclusion zone, Director. None have made it back. Amira's eyes never left the light. They won't. The distortion field doesn't destroy. It displaces. Every ship that enters becomes... Elsewhere, the officer's face tightened. Won't that provoke war? Amira finally turned, her expression unreadable. Only if they're foolish enough to send more. Outside, space rippled faintly. The ring emitted a low hum resonating across the void. Within minutes, the solar system vanished completely from external scans. To the rest of the galaxy, it was gone, hidden behind a veil of folded space. Back in the council chamber, panic gave way to fear, then confusion, then silence. Author Venn stood alone on the dais, staring at the empty hologram. Around him, hundreds of alien races whispered in disbelief. For the first time in living memory, the Galactic Council had lost control, and far away, humanity watched from behind its shimmering shield, silent and unseen, waiting for the galaxy to realize what it had done. Earth was no longer part of the Council's empire. It was something else now, something beyond reach, beyond reason, and perhaps beyond fear itself. The hall was silent except for the deep hum of the Council's gravity field. Thousands of alien eyes, tentacles, lenses, and other sensory organs turned toward the small human delegation standing on the lower dais. The Galactic Council chamber, a structure that hung like a floating cathedral above the nebula world of Virenth, had never seen a species so new, so untested, stand at its center. The ceiling shimmered with holographic constellations from 1,000 member worlds, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and tension. The human representative, Ambassador Helen Ward, stood at the edge of the glowing circle that marked the speaker's space. She wore the gray uniform of Earth's United Coalition, simple, practical, and without a trace of arrogance. But her calm expression masked the weight of an entire planet's expectations. High above her, the council speaker, a being of luminous silver strands known as Tellir Vaughn, adjusted the resonance field that gave his voice power. Representatives of Earth, he said slowly, his tone both curious and cautious. Your world has been observed with interest and concern. You expanded beyond your solar system without permission. You interfered in the Aerith disputes and dismantled illegal mining outposts belonging to several guilds. You have violated more than 12 council protocols before even becoming a recognized member. Do you deny these charges? Helen looked up, her gaze sharp. We don't deny what we've done. We acted to stop exploitation and violence where the council had turned away. A ripple of murmurs ran through the tiers of alien representatives, the sharp clicks of exoskeletons, the fluttering of wings, and the shifting of light-based beings filled the air like whispers in a storm. A representative from the Kolar Dominion leaned forward, its chitinous faceplates clicking together. You humans speak as though you have authority. You have none here. You are still an observer species. Helen didn't flinch. Authority isn't granted. It's earned. The chamber erupted with sound. The council guards tensed, hands on their plasma staffs. But the speaker raised a tendril of light for silence. His many-layered eyes studied Helen carefully. You come before the most ancient assembly in the galaxy, and yet you speak as if you are equals. Do you truly believe humanity deserves that place among us? Helen's reply came with quiet steel. We don't believe we deserve it. We intend to prove it. The speaker's light pulsed faintly, showing amusement. And how do you plan to prove it, young world? Helen stepped forward. By showing you that we're not afraid of you. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then slowly, the speaker's form dimmed. You have courage. That much is clear. But courage without restraint is destruction. You humans evolve fast, fight harder than you should, and adapt even faster than we can predict. You unsettle this council because you remind us of what we used to be. Helen's lips curved slightly. Maybe that's not a bad thing. The speaker turned to the assembly. Let us proceed to vote on humanity's petition for limited membership. The great hall darkened. Thousands of symbols lit up across the tiers, each representing a world casting its judgment. Some flashed red for rejection, others white for approval. Helen stood motionless, though her heart pounded in her chest. She could see the pattern forming, more red than white. Humanity was being denied. When the final light dimmed, the speaker announced, The vote stands. 324 against, 78 in favor, 50 abstaining. Earth will not be granted council membership. The decision rippled through the hall like a physical shockwave. Some cheered. Others hissed. The humans simply stood still. Helen nodded once. Then we will stand outside your council. But don't mistake exclusion for obedience. That single sentence silenced the room. Even the speaker faltered. The human delegation turned and began to walk toward the exit. The guards didn't stop them, though several alien representatives exchanged alarmed looks. Humanity had just defied the most powerful government in the galaxy, and had done it calmly, almost politely. When they were gone, the speaker spoke quietly to his advisors. They should have begged. Why didn't they? No one had an answer. Outside the chamber, Helen and her team moved through the glowing corridors of the council spire. Her aide, Lieutenant Aaron Doss, leaned closer. That didn't go well. Helen gave a faint smile. It went exactly how we expected. They were never going to let us in. Aaron frowned. So what now? We just walk away? She looked out at the expanse of stars beyond the glass wall. No, we make them come to us. That night, while the council debated sanctions, Earth's delegation transmitted an encrypted message back to Seoul. Within days, strange energy readings began to emerge from human-controlled systems. Fleets were recalled. Satellites vanished from shared galactic networks. Earth's presence on the interstellar net began to fade, one system at a time. Within a week, the council noticed. Humans have cut their own access lines, one of the analysts said in alarm. They're disconnecting from trade, from communication, from everything. The speaker demanded immediate contact, but every channel returned static. The last transmission from Earth's moon base was a simple message: we will return when ready. The council panicked. The trade guild warned that hundreds of contracts were collapsing. The outer colonies reported missing human ships that no longer responded to transponders. The fear wasn't that humans had disappeared, it was that they were planning something. Months passed. No word came from Earth. Then one day, a long-range probe detected something impossible, a structure, massive, bright, and rotating in the darkness near Jupiter's orbit. It wasn't a ship, or a station, or anything built by known species. It was a lattice of light stretching thousands of kilometers, pulsing like a heartbeat. Council observers sent fleets to investigate. None returned. Inside the council chamber, reports flooded in. The speaker's form flickered with agitation. They've done it again, he muttered. They've built something beyond understanding. A delegate from the Kren Collective snapped, "We must send the Vanguard Armada. If they are creating weapons, we cannot wait." The speaker hesitated. And if we attack what we do not understand, we may awaken something worse. Still, fear drove them to act. 10 fleets were launched toward Sol. Thousands of ships, armed with the most advanced technology in the known galaxy, entered human space. For 3 hours, transmissions came in, then nothing. Every ship vanished without a trace. The council fell into chaos. Some accused humans of possessing forbidden technology. Others whispered about a new form of energy that could erase matter. No one had proof. In a desperate attempt to regain control, the speaker sent a message through every communication band in the region. To the people of Earth, it said, the Galactic Council demands parley. We wish to discuss peace. There was no answer. Then one night the stars themselves shifted. Across multiple observation points, a strange distortion appeared where the solar system should have been. Space rippled, folding upon itself like a curtain. When the distortion cleared, Earth and its planets were gone, completely invisible to sensors in sight. The Council's scientists were stunned. One whispered, "They've hidden their entire system." The speaker's light dimmed to gray. "No one hides an entire world," he said softly. No one but them. Weeks passed in silence. Trade routes faltered. The Council's unity began to fracture as fear turned to distrust. And then one day a signal appeared. It came not from the void, but from inside the Council's own communication grid. It was short. Simple, human. Don't look for us. You're not ready. The message spread across the galaxy, igniting confusion and awe. No one knew what humanity had become or what they had built. All that was certain was that they were watching. And somewhere, beyond the veil of folded space in a place no alien could reach, humanity waited, silent, unseen, and preparing for the day when the galaxy would come knocking once more. The chamber was so vast that it seemed to swallow sound itself. Thousands of alien delegates filled the tiers that spiraled upward, forming a living monument of color, light, and power. Each representative glowed, shimmered, or pulsed in their own strange way. creatures made of metal, light, vapor, or flesh. The Galactic Council, the supreme authority of 10,000 civilizations, had gathered once again. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Every being in that room was waiting for one thing: the return of humanity. The speaker's voice broke the silence, echoing through the hall. After 2 years of disappearance, the species known as humans has re-established contact. They request to address the council once more. Whispers rippled like waves through the chamber. Many couldn't believe it. The last time humanity had stood here, they were denied membership and had walked away without resistance. Then they vanished, taking their entire solar system with them, cloaked behind something no known science could explain. Since then, the galaxy had changed. Trade had slowed. Borders had shifted. Fear had grown. When the great silver doors of the council chamber opened, every being turned to look. 4 humans entered. They wore no armor, no diplomatic robes, only sleek black uniforms with the emblem of a single blue sphere on the shoulder: Earth. The lead delegate was a man named Dr. Elias Hart. His expression was calm, his eyes sharp with a confidence that felt almost alien. He walked to the center platform beneath the council's blazing light and stood there in silence. Even before he spoke, the entire hall fell quiet. 2 years ago, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber, this council rejected Earth. You said we were reckless, unfit, and dangerous. You feared what we might do if left unchecked. So we withdrew. He paused, scanning the rows of alien faces. We left not in anger, but in understanding. We saw what you really were. You are afraid of change. You are trapped by your own laws. You stopped growing long ago. The speaker flickered uneasily. You have returned here without invitation, Doctor. What is it that you seek? Elias smiled faintly. Not acceptance, not approval, only clarity. Behind him, the other 3 humans placed small metallic spheres on the floor. Each glowed softly, humming with unseen power. The alien delegates murmured in alarm. The speaker demanded, "What are you doing?" Elias raised his hand. When we left, we decided to evolve, not just technologically, but as a species. You believed that we were isolated, fragile, unprepared for the scale of this galaxy. But while you debated trade and politics, we learned how to move the stars. The spheres pulsed, projecting a hologram that filled the entire chamber. It showed the solar system, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and the others, surrounded by a web of energy lines that reached far into the void. The aliens watched as the system folded in on itself and vanished from one part of the map, then reappeared somewhere else entirely. You hid your planet by shifting space itself, the speaker whispered. Impossible. Not impossible, Elias said quietly. Simply beyond your imagination. A heavy silence followed. One of the council members, a tall crystalline being from the Lyran Dominion, rose in anger. You threaten the balance of the galaxy. Such technology could destroy entire systems. Elias's calm expression didn't change. We have no desire to destroy anything. We only wish to be left alone, but your council sent fleets into our region. You tried to force us to submit. They never returned. That was not an act of aggression, it was defense. Another delegate shouted, "You annihilated 10 fleets." Elias's tone sharpened slightly. We didn't destroy them. We moved them. They're still alive on the other side of a fold. You can bring them back when you understand how. The council fell into chaos. Shouts, lights, and overlapping languages filled the air. The speaker struggled to maintain order. Enough, he thundered. Dr. Hart, humanity's behavior threatens the stability of the known galaxy. You have overstepped every law of science and reason. What gives you the right? Elias looked straight at him. You gave it to us when you rejected us. The words hit like thunder. He stepped closer to the center, his voice calm but heavy. You called us dangerous because we adapt too fast. You feared us because we wouldn't obey your centuries-old hierarchy. You tried to isolate us. Instead, you forced us to unify. We stopped competing among ourselves and started working together. You didn't see it then, but your rejection made us unstoppable. The chamber lights dimmed as the hologram shifted again, showing fleets of human ships, sleek, dark, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They moved through folded space, bypassing light years in seconds. Each ship pulsed with the same strange energy that hit Earth. This is not a weapon, Elias said. It's a statement. Humanity no longer needs your counsel. But the galaxy still needs change. You've ruled for too long with fear and stagnation. That ends now. The speaker's voice trembled. Are you declaring war? No, Elias said simply. We're declaring independence. Gasps filled the room. Elias gestured to his team. One of them activated the final sphere. A second hologram appeared, this time showing hundreds of other species that had contacted humanity in secret during the past 2 years. Small races tired of the Council's control, miners, traders, colonists, all united under a single new banner, the Free Systems Alliance. You're not the only power anymore, Elias said. The galaxy belongs to everyone who dares to build, to explore, to rise. The speaker's light flickered erratically. If you proceed with this, you will divide the galaxy. You will bring ruin. Elias gave a faint smile. No, we'll bring progress. For a long, heavy moment, no one spoke. The weight of what had just been declared hung in the air like the silence before a storm. The speaker, struggling to keep his composure, finally said, You realize the consequences. You will be hunted. Every world that joins you will face sanctions, isolation, and war. Elias nodded. That's what you said about us before. And yet here we are. The holograms vanished and the humans turned toward the exit. The guards moved to block them, but Elias raised a hand. The entire chamber flickered. The gravity fields, the lights, even the translation systems. Every piece of technology inside the council room froze. Elias looked back over his shoulder. You think you control the galaxy, but you don't even understand the systems you use. You inherited technology you never learned to improve. We learned to remake it. And then, just as suddenly, everything came back online. The humans were gone. In their place, a final message shimmered in the air. A single line of text translated into every known language. Humanity withdraws from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. Panic spread across the hall. Some species began to scream. Others fled. The speaker sat in silence, his light dimming with dread. He turned to his advisors. They've done it, he whispered. They've broken away completely, and now, nothing can stop them. Days later, across the galaxy, entire regions began defecting from the Council. Small colonies declared independence. Trade routes shifted toward human-controlled systems. A new order was forming, one built not on control but on freedom. From the hidden edges of space, humanity watched silently. Their ships moved through folded dimensions, unseen by all but a few. On the dark side of a distant moon, Dr. Elias stood before a viewing window, staring out at the swirling stars. Behind him, young cadets trained for exploration, not conquest. Do you think they'll ever understand? One of his aides asked softly. Elias smiled faintly. Someday, when they stop fearing what they don't control. He looked out at the endless stars once more. Until then, we'll keep building. We'll keep moving forward, because that's what humans do. And somewhere deep in the void where no council sensors could reach, Earth pulsed like a hidden heart of light. Silent, unyielding, and ready for whatever came next.